Time for some auricular delights now. And Simon Lucas has reviewed some large, pricey, but rather nice British stereo speakers for us. So what have you got, Simon?
The Monitor Audio Platinum range has always been the company's flagship range, and they recently released the third generation of the Platinum range, and the flagship speaker in that flagship range is the Platinum 300 3G. It's a large and imposing, profoundly capable floor standing loudspeaker, which you can acquire a pair of for about £11,000, I think.
The flagship speaker in the flagship range. That's a lot of
That's right.
putting the flags out. So does
Yeah.
it live up to that amount of flaggage, Simon?
Yeah, I mean, it's true to say, isn't it? The law of diminishing returns is at work with loudspeakers as surely as it is anywhere else in the hi-fi industry. But nevertheless, if you have the wherewithal and if you have a room large enough, because they do require a fairly large room to do their best, and if you are resolved to spend similarly impressive sums on the equipment that's driving them, then then it's quite easy to make a case for them, I think. They sound tremendous. They're really balanced and poised and powerful and insightful, subtle and muscular, and all of the positive terms that you want to apply to a pair of new loudspeakers, they do apply to these.
It is a lot of money for speakers. And on this show, we have featured some very traditional speakers, some very highly innovative speakers. Where would you put these on that range? Are we paying a lot of money for absolute craftsmanship in the traditional end, or a bit of innovation, or how do they work out?
Yeah, there is a bit of everything there. I mean, these are passive loudspeakers, and very little is new in the world of passive loudspeakers. Um, you're paying for some expert cabinet making. You can tell from the picture a little bit, I suppose, but they're well over a meter tall, and they're well over 50 kilos each. So once you've put them on their spikes, if it, in my house anyway, I put them on their spikes and I put them in their position, and over the course of a few days, they just gently drove themselves into the floor. And so they had to be sort of prized out again when I returned them to Monitor Audio. There's some very there's innovation within the technology. The technology itself, the broad technology, loudspeaker drivers and what have you, is the same as it ever was. But Monitor Audio have perfected these rigid diaphragm cones over time, and they basically have gone to lengths. They've applied themselves. They've spared apparently very little expense in specifying and constructing these speakers, and then lacquering them 7 times or whatever, so you can see your face in them, and your fingerprints. And the result, it's quite imposing as furniture. But as I said, these loudspeakers need a fair size of room in order to do their best anyway. And so, if you accept them as pieces of furniture, then they've got quite a lot going for them, I think.
So let's say that someone likes the sound of these speakers and it's a heck of an investment. You are not going to buy them without listening to them first. You are going to want to go and see them, touch them, listen to them, imagine them for your own listening experience. How many places are there where you can actually do that and go and experience speakers like this?
I don't know exactly how many places are stocking the this range, but there are some retailers, especially in the south of England, where their stock in trade is extremely expensive equipment. You may have to travel to hear them, but then it's like buying a Bentley or a Porsche. You can't just pop down the road, can you? You do have to make an effort to get to listen to these things.
Yeah, I never just pop down the road to buy my Bentley, Simon. No, I always make a special trip. And as for where you can hear them, I think we should throw a challenge out to the Sound Advice helpline, because, hey, that's what it's for, isn't it? So if you want to find a pair of these speakers, get in touch with our helpline, and I'm sure the guys at Sound Advice will help you find them. And as for the review, I'm going to put a link to Simon's written review of these speakers underneath this video. Now, Simon, like most reviewers, you review stuff at home and you have large
Yes.
amounts of kit to swap in and out, even if they are large speakers that have 3 people to carry them in and install them. And that's great. You can set it up how you want. You can get it sounding amazing. You can spend your time over reviewing that kit. But I understand that there was a pair of speakers that you did not review at home and you had to go to Essex to look at.
Essex.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Tell us all.
Dartford Crossing and everything. It was another pair of Monitor Audio speakers. I know I've just said that their Platinum range is a flagship, but the Monitor Audio was 50 years old last year. And by way of celebration, they developed a loudspeaker called Concept 50. And it was so well received when they showed it at different places that they decided to put it into production. It's not called Concept 50 anymore. It's called Hyphen, but without an E. And it is a passive loudspeaker, but it's a quite a thorough reimagining of passive loudspeaker. And the result and this is what you get if you allow your designers and your engineers free rein. You end up with a loudspeaker that needs to be hand built and costs £75,000 a pair.
I'm sorry, I beg your pardon.
£75,000 a pair. I mean, that's for a pair, obviously.
Well, I'm glad it's for a pair. From the photo, Simon, I can't tell the size of them, or tell me a little bit about the physical characteristics.
Smaller than a Platinum 300. Still quite tall, but no, there are many loudspeakers bigger than a pair of Monitor Audio Hyphen. They work in sort of 2 pillars. Each speaker is 2 separate enclosures joined across the middle by a mid-range and treble driver array. A hyphen in architecture, I believe, is a link between 2 structures, and there's a bridge between these 2 pillars in these loudspeakers. And then so you have 6 small mid-range drivers with a ribbon tweeter in the center in that middle array, and then on the inside of each of the pillars there are a pair of bass drivers which operate in a sort of a force cancelling principle. So you've got 8 bass drivers, 12 mid-range drivers and a pair of tweeters, and a lot of extremely carefully constructed cabinet work, which is all finished by hand. And I might have suggested when I was at Monitor Audio that it put me in mind of Corian kitchen work surfaces. That didn't go well, but nevertheless we recovered ourselves from there, and we're all friends again.
I can't imagine why that wouldn't go down well. Coming back to the number of drivers, though, that's a lot of drivers. Nice and smooth, no sort of obvious edginess around that, or
what to the sound? You mean
to the
or
sound?
to the no the sound? I mean, we've already talked about diminishing returns, and £75,000 of loudspeakers is not. It's not 10 times better than £7,000 worth of loudspeakers, which equally are not 10 times better than 700 quid's worth. But they are outstanding loudspeakers. I mean, almost humbling in the sort of immediacy and the positivity and the fidelity that they're capable of. And unlike the Platinums that we talked about, they don't seem to insist on a massive room in which to work. Although if you've got 75 grand for speakers, I presume even your bathroom is massive, let alone the room you're listening in.
It must be a little bit like getting a Willy Wonka gold ticket when you go on down to Monitor, to like a real VIP experience, to have the pleasure of listening to those speakers, is it not?
It was nice to go and do that, yeah. And in this instance, I'm glad that I had to go there rather than have the product come to me. I don't want to be left in charge of £75,000 worth of speakers. Anything could happen. There are limits to my business insurance that would quite easily be breached.
Thank you very much for going and carrying out that mission to Essex in order to get that review. But if you happen to not have that amount of money, then I will put a link below this video to lots and lots of speakers which are also very good and not quite that amount of money. Sorry, Simon, tell me how much that amount of money was again?
£75,000.